No.
Oh,
Oh, no, I'm not contagious, are you? I don't think so.
okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Please note that this meeting will be live streamed, so beware of that. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? None. Public hearings, there are none. Delegations, none. Question period. None.
Okay, we're moving to part one of the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Ray Dufour, seconded by Councillor Ron Duplessis. Be it resolved that items A1 to F2 inclusive contained in part one consent agenda be adopted.
Your Honor, could we move D2 to regular agenda, please?
D2.
Yes.
All right, in this A1 section, any questions or comments? Board and committee reports in the B section, questions or comments? In the D section, D1, any questions or comments there? D2, we'll do that now.
No,
Nope.
D2 will be in the G section.
In the E section, questions or comments? In the F section, questions or comments? We have heard the motion.
I'll reread the motion because of the change.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Ron Duplessis, seconded by Councillor Ray Dufour. Be it resolved that items A1 to F2 excluding item D2 contained in part one consent agenda be adopted.
Questions and comments on D2?
No, you have to vote on this.
All in favor? Carried.
Okay, moving into part two, the regular agenda. Moved by Councillor Bobby Oakham, seconded by Councillor Ron Duplessis. Be it resolved that, as recommended by the Community Services Committee, that staff pursue with the development of a beautification dedication program policy, guidelines, and application for adoption by council.
Comments or questions? Ken?
I think this is a good idea. The only concern I have with it is that it's council's responsibility to approve everything in the minutes here, it's talking about reporting to council, and it says staff may report to council and seek direction on matters on a number of issues. And I think it should read, will report to council. In my view, we should be
Part of the process.
using the process that we voted in for.
Councilor Bob?
Yeah, actually, this request came through the Community Services Committee. And really, all the staff, that draft policy is just an example of what's being worked on. All staff is requesting is to be confirmed that they continue to work to develop the policy. This isn't the policy. The policy will come to council with these and everything else at a later date. They just want to make sure it's okay and to carry on with developing this policy. And you're right, it's a great thing. It's done a lot in other communities. So everything will come back to council later.
Can I just add something? That was also brought up at the community services, so staff will take that in consideration when it comes back and make sure to include that type of, if, depending what the wording is, but they'll look at that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, under the G section,
Okay. G1, moved by Counselor Bill Foster, second by Counselor Ray Dufour. Be it-
We didn't vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
what's the
Go with
name?
that one, eh?
You gotta vote on.
Oh, sorry.
Jeez.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
I'm sorry as well.
Now try it.
Moved by Counselor Bill Foster, second by Counselor Ray Dufour. Be it resolved that council proceed with the OPP proposal for providing police services.
Questions or comments? Counselor Bill?
Yeah, I have a few comments, okay? The key reason for looking at the OPP crossing is to really see whether or not we can get policing, effective policing from the OPP at a lower cost. And the assumption was, in my mind, I think most of us is, if the economics aren't there, we wouldn't go ahead. At this point, we only know that with the OPP, we need a new building. And that building would cost a considerable sum of money. The town would have to finance the building, and we'd be compensating by renting it to the OPP for their use. And this would be backed by a long-term contract, so we would match the mortgage and the contracts to make sure that we were getting paid a rental fee for that time period. The net cost of doing this is about $125,000 a year. That's a mortgage cost minus the rental fee revenue that we would get. That's a rough estimate at this point in time, and that would be finalized as we get further down the road. This net cost would decrease over time because there would be inflation in there for rental increases over a period of time. So that's the starting point, and that number would gradually decrease as time went on. The debt that we would incur could easily be handled by Espanola. It wouldn't push us anywhere near the limits for debt within the community. If we were to get cost savings and we decided to build a building for that. The new building would house about the current officers on Highway 17, plus the officers in Espanola, and there'd be about 30 officers plus support staff working out of Espanola. This in itself would result in some cost-saving synergies when the OPP estimate the policing cost for Espanola, just having the working out of there. So on one side, there's the cost of the building minus the rental fee. That's a cost to us. There's some savings from the OPP that go with that. And this would also improve the policing coverage that we would get there, having the OPP working out of a hub located in Espanola. So I believe we need to go ahead with the costing, so we know the second part of the equation, whether or not the OPP can save us some money, and in the final analysis, whether we go ahead or not will depend on what the economics look like.
Counselor Ray?
It's just a couple of questions for you. The other municipalities that got into this, did they have to jump through hoops like this? Do you know?
Well, I can tell you that Pembroke built a $6.8 million police station or something in that region.
Excuse me?
6.87. They spent $7 million.
Yeah.
And they're saving, and I can't tell you whether it's before or after the rental fee
Right.
or the mortgage fee, and they built it just for themselves, okay?
Okay.
They're saving around $800,000 a year, and I can't tell you whether or not you subtract out the mortgage fee with that or not, okay?
Okay.
So other communities are doing this. One of the problems that we have, okay, in that, because they can't use the station on the highway to accommodate extra officers, and we can't use our police station. A new police station has to be built. If you go into the normal OPP system, they would make recommendations, and that has to be approved by the cabinet. There's no guarantee when they would build a police station. And there's no guarantee exactly where you would build a police station. If we If we build a police station, we know we can build it in Espanola and we can control that part of it. The only problem is we have to use some debt to do that.
Okay, and do we know that we're gonna actually need the amount of police force, or the amount of men that we have in our police force now? Would we need them with the OPP standing guard instead? And the reason I'm asking this is because of the visibility factor, they'll be in town as well, if we go through with this.
I don't know, that'll be up to the OPP to tell us.
I mean, I guess it'll be all trial and error when the time comes.
Well-
So I guess we have to base our expectations maybe more on trial and error than actual
Well-
factuality.
Well, these estimates are based on having exactly the same number of officers, okay? Right now, we have 8, we have 9 constables, 2 sergeants, and a police chief. That's not likely gonna be quite the case with the OPP,
That's
because you're
correct.
gonna have a sergeant, okay? So the cost estimates or the cost of the building and/or the rental fee may get modified. If we end up with 10 or 11 people, that would mean that we would get more rental revenue, we would have to pay a little less, so that number could change a little bit.
Okay, so you're saying the size of the building would stay just because we could actually use it at some point?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's,
Yeah,
They have requirements, but we have to be careful here because we're talking in estimates, we're not talking about
Yeah.
actual.
yeah, we're aware of that,
So we have to keep
Yes.
track of that.
absolutely. But again, we're just trying to make sure that the estimates are close. And by asking questions, I think we're coming to, because we are coming to a head. It's just, we're around the waist right now, but I mean, we are coming towards that head. So hopefully we can get more information. And I was watching a video that was sent to me, and I was looking at their new model. And it's actually, it hasn't changed the bottom line any. It's just how it's been proportioned and where it's going now.
yeah.
And it's actually cheaper this year for the cost than it was last year, just by $7 or so, but nonetheless, it's still cheaper, you know? So, I mean, it's just an idea, like it's $193 or $197 per household, and then, of course, you have to factor in all the enhancements that you would want with that. Okay, I'm glad that we talked about it, but there was 3 arguments here that you posted, or somebody posted, right?
Well, I don't know, like I mentioned.
Those are the OPP and the
Yeah.
Infrastructure Ontario options.
Yeah.
Right.
They're options.
So, did you want an answer on that, like tonight, is that what we're?
We just want to know whether we want to ask them to go ahead with more costs, is that correct?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Councilor Ron?
I'm in favor of moving ahead. I mean, we got into this almost 2 years ago. We want to have an answer to bring back to the people of Espanola. To do that, we need some figures. Now, I'm hoping that this building we're looking at and the rental, one will offset and it keeps the numbers down where there is. Like you said, it's all economics. If there's no savings to the taxpayer, we're not there. But and just to say what Councillor Dufour said, you know, where we need the same officers. We will get input from the OPP, but that will also be a decision made by this council of how we want to man the Espanola force. But certainly having the hub in Espanola for Espanola and the OPP for the highway and outside surrounding areas will certainly put a lot more presence in the community. Whether they're policing here or just coming in and out, they're going to be doing the job. So I'm certainly in favor of moving forward. We're not committed to anything. We're just moving forward to get more numbers so we can make decisions based on those numbers.
We have to remember too that there's going to be additional outlay with severance costs and different other things that are going to be taking place. So it's not going to be a simple switch.
No.
Where we go from here to there in 1 day or 24 hours. So we have to be careful about that. The other thing I'd like everybody to be careful with is the fact that in all of this, we have to meditate upon the fact that taxpayers are in the balance here.
Absolutely.
And there's other infrastructure needs that we really need. We need a fire truck, we need a fire hall, we need public works department washrooms, and we need a police crossing, we need Highway 6 water infrastructure. So when we pile this up, we've got to think about how much debt we really want. And how much debt does the taxpayer really want? Go ahead.
Also, to go further on that, Your Worship, when you're saying we need those, we also, I saw in my info here, where by 2025, if I remember correctly, if we don't build a new structure for the fire, or for the police station, we have to make it handicapped accessible, so there's a cost there. Now, we eliminate that if we go forward with this. And you're right, Your Worship, we have to look at all the severance packages and the whole thing, but that will be part of the economic portion that we're gonna have to deal with when we come time to make, but we need all the information before we can even look at
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'm okay with that. Councillor Bob?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I'll just provide a little clarity on the report there. In the comment that our existing facility meets ministry requirements, that's actually based upon information from our ministry rep, that they do not, that the Ministry of Correctional Services, that is, that they do not regulate cells and stuff. It remains to be confirmed if we can have the ministry actually inspect our facility and take a good look at it. Regarding the accessibility, which Councillor Duplessis mentioned, actually a lot of the modifications are relatively minor, except for the most significant one, which is we have to install an elevator in that building by 2025 or figure out another option. Anyway, to the motion itself, really all the initial one-time costs appear startling perhaps. They are based on estimates only, and as you can tell by the huge difference from $5 to $8 million. And to repeat, there will be mitigation, including low lease payments and any cost savings, of course. I'm going to fully support continuing with the OPP service proposal process. It's the only way we can get to determine the best way forward for policing, and we simply have to have all the information to make a proper decision, taking everything into account at a later time. And that's all we're doing here is authorizing, that we're going to go ahead with the OPP providing us a service proposal, which is going to include the cost, and proceed with discussions with Infrastructure Ontario, who actually oversee the OPP's buildings. So, thank you.
I'm not opposed to OPP, but I'd like to know what the municipality would be doing with the building that exists now if we switch to another building. We got a building there you can do nothing with. Absolutely nothing.
And so,
And what can you do? You have to tear it apart, take the cells up, and get all of that stuff done, and there's quite costly renovations to that.
well, you sell it with the cells in it.
Pardon?
Sell it with the cells in it. I mean, does it matter?
Yeah, but then what, we'll sell a $750,000 building for $50.
You know what? We've done that, yes.
Done ours.
Yeah.
Certainly that'll come out in the equation, Your Honor.
It's,
That'll
Oh,
be
I
part of the
expect so.
equation, I think.
Make it
I
so
expect so.
Dungeons and Dragons.
What we asking for is, you wanna look for an option right now?
No.
We're just
No.
looking to proceed? Okay,
And we
of course, we have to
Yeah.
proceed because we've been doing this since day one.
But again, I want to remind everybody to keep the taxpayer in view here, because the taxpayer is the one that's
why we're doing it.
and their pocket to pay for this. Councilor Bill?
I'd like to point out that, the town's been looking at reducing costs for a number of years because we've been getting hit with reassessments and reducing grants. Right now, the OMP grants have gone down from around $2.5 million to around $2 million in the last 3 or 5 years. The reassessments of the mill and commercial units mean right now that money that those groups pay the typical householder and apartment dweller are paying those extra amounts, and it amounts to about 30% of our tax bill. And the most recent impact assessments are telling us that it's not getting any better, okay? We're faced with some more issues, we just don't know whether or not, what we can do about them. The policing may be the only area that we can make some significant savings, but we won't know that until we have the final numbers.
Absolutely.
And that's the last thing I want to say is that you have to take into consideration Domtar. If the buying of and repairing stuff right now is on a per cost basis in there, and that will certainly have effect on what our desires are. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things, just with regards to the accessibility. That'll be all public buildings by 2025, so it wasn't just specific to the police station. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Right.
And also Councillor Dupley made a comment with regards to we would have some say over the number of officers in that going forward. I just wanted to clarify that we will not.
No.
Will be completely up to the OPP detachment commander going forward.
We can still ask for more.
So you can always pay for enhancements. and
Well,
then
that's what I'm
it'll be
saying.
up to them.
That will be up to the municipality if we want more than what they require.
Enhanced services
Yes.
will be part of the contract, but it'll be up to OPP to
That's right.
determine how many bodies
minimum.
that might be.
Minimum, yeah, well, we said
So
that.
I just wanted to
Okay, I wasn't
clarify
aware of that.
And then I don't know if council wanted to defer this vote just until after the in-camera meeting. I do have some other information that I could share in terms of the actuarial considerations of some of those costs. I don't think it's gonna change the
It
vote.
won't change.
Okay. We'll move on to,
Got to move on this, please.
okay, be it resolved that council proceed with the OPP proposal for providing police services. All in favor? Carried.
Item G2, moved by Councillor Ken Dupuy, second by Councillor Bob Yocum. Be it resolved that the Road Bank Master Plan Agreement to update titles and signing officers be approved.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Item G3, moved by Councillor Bill Foster, second by Councillor Bob Yocum. Be it resolved that Council for the Town of Escamilla hereby supports Resolution Number 16-384 of the Township of McKellar dated November 21st, 2016 regarding funding of fire department infrastructure.
Questions or comments? Councilor Bob.
I think it's, thank you, Your Worship. I think it's, the resolution is quite self-explanatory. I'm the one who asked for it to be put on the agenda. It simply asks that the province recognize that, and include funding for the fire department infrastructure, be eligible for grants through the Moving Ontario Forward infrastructure plan. It's one area they don't give grants or even consider grants for anything, be it buildings or equipment or anything. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Ron.
I looked at that, and I certainly know where Councillor Yocum is coming from, but I look at it from a different point of view. We're losing grants, and the province is downloading on municipalities all through the province. There's only one taxpayer, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal, same people paying. So if we shift it from Espanola, the fire cost, we shift it to the province, we pay it on our provincial taxes. Maybe it's divided over more, but then you also become where you're paying into other people that may be getting the grants where you're denied them. Because I know in the past we were always looked at as pretty affluent society, good tax base, little industry right in the center of town. While this community that's asking for this is a small little community east of Perry Sound, had about 1,100 people, don't have a big tax base. It's a recreation area, so they probably would get a grant before we would. So our taxpayers would fund a lot of the other ones also. With that in mind, I always have a hard time because it's still the taxpayer that pays, whether you do it municipally or provincially. And you may be doing it provincially, but not reaping the rewards, just helping someone else get their grants. Mind you, if this program ever went forward, I'd be one of the first that wanted to apply for a grant. But I don't know if we'd ever get it. I think the province is just going to download more. We got another one coming next week that I've asked where they want us to start taking over complaints with tenants. So they're not going to start giving you more.
Anyone else? Council for the Town of Escamilla hereby supports resolution number 16-384 of the Township of McKellar dated November 22nd, 2016 regarding funding for fire department infrastructure. All in favor? Carried. The reports for H1 and H2 are for information only, and these read them. The information for Phenom and correspondence below that are previously been circulated to council. Conference and conventions, Ontario Good Roads Conference is starting Sunday, February the 26th to Wednesday, March the 1st, 2017, in Toronto, Ontario, I'm sorry. And Phenom on Wednesday, May the 10th, and Friday, May the 12th, or two Friday, May the 12th, 2017, North Bay, Ontario. Mayor and councillor reports and announcements. I'd like to just make mention that I went to that arena when the guy pushing the shopping cart was there. And
Did you get in?
I was really impressed with, they rebuilt the shopping cart all out of aluminum rods and everything like that. And made it quite unique. But anyway, I met the gentleman and we had a good little chat there. And I like what he stands for. He stands for children who are homeless, children who are living in troubled homes. And he really gave, there was about 100 kids there, I guess, and he really gave them a boost. They were charged up when he was there talking to them, and he actually had quite a story. He came through a very hard life on his own, beginning in a very good home, ending up in a very bad home, and then ending up on the streets. And he's pushing that cart around to show people that there's no need for that we can do something with our young people and help them to fly in the right direction. Councillor Bob.
Thanks, Sir Rosa. Just a couple things. Carnival weekend starts on February the 10th, and there's lots of events scheduled, as there always is, and many of them, as usual, are going to be supported by our great volunteers within the town. Also on Carnival weekend, Espanola is one of the communities chosen to participate in the Canada 150 Mosaic Mural Project. A mural will be constructed from 4-inch by 4-inch tiles, and the mural's overall size is 4 by 8 foot. And each tile is painted by residents. And it will, in the end, the mural will represent the history of our paper town. The tile painting is taking place the 10th and 11th of February at the Legion, and then no experience is required, which in my case is a pretty good thing. There's full details are on the town website and the Facebook page on how to pre-register to paint a tile. I hope the other councillors will join me on Saturday, February 11th at 1:30 to paint a tile. And like I say, you probably need to stay very far back. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Ray.
Good, thanks.
Councillor Ron.
Well, I join you, Bob, but I'll tell you, I don't think anybody wants to see stick men on there.
You're gonna paint a tile one color, no seal required.
I'd just like to say that I think our public works people are doing a pretty good job. We've had a lot of snow early in the season. Of course, we've had an early spring that's going to disappear in the next few days. Tremendous amount of problems with snowbanks being in with all the snow, the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, and all the rest. And then, of course, the mild spell has brought a lot of slush. They're out there, and I was checking on them tonight. I see they're down by Barry and James, I think it is, cleaning up corners and pushing the slush out of people's driveways and whatever. The other thing I was happy to see was, I know our outdoor rink was closed because of the mild spell and asked people not to go on it, the gate's locked, but it was nice because I know in the past people will still jump over them 4-foot boards and demolish it, and I was out checking it again yesterday, and it's nice to see that it's nice and level, and if these days cool off in the next couple, we should be able to have our people out there enjoying themselves again.
Right on. Right on.
And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Councillor Kent.
No, thanks.
Councillor Bill.
I don't have.
Future council and committee meetings, corporate services committee meeting is February 7th at 4 p.m. Regular meeting of council next is February 14th at 7:30 p.m. And the regular meeting of council is hereby adjourned. All in favor? Carried.